Senator Roger Marshall is here. Senator from Kansas. Dr. Marshall, how are you, sir?
Mike, good morning. Glad to be with you.
Really good to talk to you. What's going on in Kansas these days? How's Kansas doing?
Well, we had some rain and snow this winter, so as agriculture goes, so goes Kansas. So we're grateful for the rain. Everything else we can work at, but you can't control Mother Nature.
That's amen. We got the rain. Tell us about the Laken Riley Act. What's the plan here, Senator?
Well, we had this Laken Riley Act on the floor just yesterday on the Senate floor, and the Democrats rejected it. It had passed the House. I don't have to tell your listeners about the murder of Laken Riley by a person that Joe Biden paroled. Joe Biden has paroled over 2 million people since he got to office. And then her assailant ends up in New York. He gets arrested there. They set him loose. He gets to Georgia. They have a shoplifting warrant out on him as well. And what our legislation would do is, if you're here illegally and you're picked up for a crime, then you have to be detained, not caught and released, but detained until ICE exports you. I learned yesterday as well that there's over 1.5 million people in America now that have went through the entire immigration process, have been told, no, you have to leave. So 1.5 million people on top of the millions of gotaways, millions of parolees. And then this is what happens. Laken Riley brutally murdered. And it's a sad day in America.
I'd say. Border Patrol released numbers from fiscal year 2023. It was something like 335,000 Venezuelan encounters, illegal immigrant Venezuelans, and just about 800 were deported. So it's 0.25% were deported. So, excuse my cynicism, Senator. I apologize for it. Isn't this already the law?
Listen, I'm not a lawyer. There's lots of loopholes. I think there's loopholes out there. This would tighten it up. I think there's some discretion, and I think what the law is more on the violent crimes that they're picked up on. So this would be for any type of crime that you're picked up for, you would be detained.
Okay, so even a shoplifting charge or child endangerment, which you and I would say would be a pretty serious charge, but maybe under the letter of the law that may not be a serious charge.
Exactly.
So this would make it so more crimes are in that catch-all.
You got it. Exactly. Yes. And in this case, in the case of Laken Riley, her assailant had a warrant out for shoplifting earlier, as you point out. It was endangerment of a child as well. And by the way, this person, if we find out he's part of a gang, a very violent gang from Venezuela. His brother is part of this gang as well. When these people are paroled, there's just no way they're properly vetted. And the Border Patrol does the best they can. But when you have 10,000, 12,000 people coming across the border in a day, there's no way you can handle this. So then there's no way you can properly vet somebody like this. I think that red lights would have went off if there was time to actually vet these people.
Sure. How's this being received so far in the Senate, especially with the Democratic colleagues of yours?
Well, I think mediocre. I think that they're going to say, well, you guys, we had a bigger immigration bill out there, so you turned it down. So we're not going to help you out with this one. So they're turning the blind eye towards this. And, their goal is to grease the skids to get as many people across the border as they can. This doesn't fit that narrative. So they're going to keep pushing back in that direction until we just open the floodgates. They're not going to do anything to secure the border, and even then, I'm not sure they're serious.
We played a clip earlier of Bill Hagerty, Tennessee senator, explaining why he believes the Democrats are leaving the gates wide open. Do you have any thoughts on why the Democrats are doing this? Why Joe Biden's doing this?
Oh, it is absolutely to build their census, so they can have more people. So when they do the census, the amount of government resources, federal resources that go to your district is based upon that census. Next, they're going to be voting illegally. And, so they help to grow their electoral college as well. California and New York are hemorrhaging people that are leaving because they're tired of the violence. So they're trying to backfill that so they keep the number of congressional seats, which adds to their electoral college. So it's politically motivated.
I'm way too cynical, Senator. I apologize. I'm getting old. And when I hear like the mayor of New York or whatever complaining about it, I almost don't think they're really complaining about it. I think they just want money. I think they're just complaining about it because they want more money.
You got it. So what my friends across the aisle do is they create a crisis then they think the government can solve that crisis. And then that solution then creates more problems. So times they created this crisis. Joe Biden created the crisis. Now the mayor of New York, Chicago are feeling the pain. So guess what? Just send us more money. That will solve all our problems. But it's not going to solve the violence problems. To your point, the folks that came in from Venezuela, a lot of those are not good people. It's a violent society. If you've ever been there, you understand just how violent that society is. These gotaways, 2 million gotaways in this country, there's a reason they didn't go through the regular process. So they're going to be feeling this crime for decades.
I want to play this clip here. So this is H.W. Bush. So we're going to go back. H.W. Bush gave a speech about the war on drugs. And Joe Biden gave the rebuttal to that speech. Pretty interesting. So here's just like 10 seconds of it.
In a nutshell, the president's plan doesn't include enough police officers to catch the violent thugs, not enough prosecutors to convict them, not enough judges to sentence them, and not enough prison cells to put them away for a long time.
How about that, Senator? So here he is talking about more police, judges, jails, the prison industrial complex, and calling them thugs as well. How times have changed.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I had not heard that one. Yeah, times have changed. His priorities have changed. I always judge a person by their actions. At the end of the day, Joe Biden's let 10 million people come across the border illegally that are not properly vetted. We don't have enough. The National Guard, if we employed all the National Guard full-time, we could not get rid of all the thugs, all the people that are here illegally in the nation right now. Obviously, the president, Biden, is doing everything he can to keep these people from being deported. So, yes, it's a new day, obviously.
Barack Obama in 2009 said we can't have 500,000 people pouring over the border. We've had 10 million. Like, what in the world? Is anything going to happen in the Senate side? We're talking with Senator Dr. Roger Marshall right now from Kansas. Is there anything going to happen in the Senate side on the Mayorkas impeachment, or is that just zero going to happen?
Well, we'll see. Of course, Chuck Schumer is planning on tabling it. I mean, literally going through a motion to table it, which has never been done with an impeachment procedure before. The Senate has taken on each and every one of those. They certainly do not want this trial, this impeachment trial on the American press every night, leading the way as well. The main issue. So he's going to do everything he can to table it. We'll see if 3 or 5 Democrats vote no on it, but he's going to try to table it, no doubt.
We talked yesterday with Senator Ron Johnson from Wisconsin, and we talked about just the leadership on our side with McConnell leaving. What are your thoughts on that? Who should take over the show here?
Listen, someone whose priorities are the same as the people back home. The Republican Party is becoming the party of hardworking men and women who take their lunch pail to work. We are the party of small businesses. Union workers are looking for a home as well, and there's room for them in our 10 as well. So it's got to be someone who identifies those American first priorities, and I'm waiting to see who that person is. There's qualified people, but I want to know what your priorities are, so I'm still looking.
We kicked off the show with that, actually. Some numbers here that Biden won the non-white vote by 50 points in 2020. And now the latest New York poll has Biden only up by 12. That's a huge. And now for the 2020, the richest third voted for Democrat and the poorest third voted for Republican. That's a huge shift that's happening in real time right now.
Yeah, we work really hard out in the streets and getting to know people and keeping our fingers on the pulse. Last October, we said the number one issue was going to be the southern borders be the number one issue. Number 2 issue back home right now is constitutional rights. People are afraid of your constitutional rights. We do a lot of telephone town halls. We did one a month or so ago with senior citizens, another one with just youngsters, young adults under the age of 40. Both of them, their number 2 concern was the attack of their constitutional rights. So the Democrat Party has left hardworking Americans. There's a lot of folks back home that I have a little bit of a libertarian streak, Mike. Folks like me that carry a fishing pole and a shotgun in the back of the truck because you just never know when the fish will be biting. So we just want to be left alone by the federal government. So they've left the Democrat Party. The union workers are. They're finding a home with us. Of course, the COVID vaccine mandates, mask mandates, that turned a lot of union workers away as well. So we're the party of respecting your constitutional rights and the party of hardworking Americans.
My last question for you, sir. You're a former Army captain. We spent a good amount of time yesterday talking about West Point getting rid of their motto of duty, honor, and country. Any thoughts on that? Have you given time to think about that?
I'm almost speechless. I read the article yesterday myself. If it wasn't broken, don't fix it. West Point, that's a hollowed ground, and I'm just in shock. I wish they would be focused more on training men and women to fight our nation's battles than they are about rewriting history and rewriting what the mantra should be. I believe that was General Bradley that gave us that motto. That was his famous speech at West Point. Is that right?
MacArthur, yeah.
MacArthur, okay.
MacArthur.
Yeah, forgive me. I was a medical student, not a history buff. But, it's almost a slap, in the face of him as well. And it probably was during when Eisenhower was president or on his way to becoming president. So I need to go back and see, exactly the history of that, when they changed it. And, I could be rolling over today.
What a metaphor.
Yeah.
What a metaphor for just our country, where we are, tearing it all down, rewriting it all.
Yeah, you just changed my mood for the rest of the day. I'll be driving by. Actually, I'll be in Abilene this afternoon, where, of course, Ike was raised. And boy, if your listeners ever get a chance to stop at the Eisenhower Museum Presidential Library,
nice.
It's one of the best, I think it's the best. I've seen most of them. There's nothing better. So the story of the five-star general.
Oh, good stuff.
Yeah. So stop and
we actually played a clip of him earlier in the show. Let's talk more about him next time, and then also in the meantime, we'll think about fishing, because if the fish are biting,